Okay, so first I just want to ask you what's your main association to the college?
Well, I was hired as a full-time English teacher in 1983 and was here for 20 years in that capacity. Taught mostly creative writing, composition at first, then creative writing with some literature classes. And meanwhile, I founded the Hacienda Institute and the Southwest Writer Series. Well, Southwest Writer Series was in 1985. And the Southwest Writer Series is still going. The college is just canceling the Hacienda Institute for Creative Writing.
Oh my goodness.
Just now.
I heard how wonderful that was too. I can't believe that's happening.
It's a national conference, big national reputation all over the region. People are calling, all the time now, what do you have coming this summer? So it's a very big disappointment, especially since we had a National Endowment for the Arts grant this year. However, I've talked to the National Endowment for the Arts, and we may be able to transfer that grant for $10,000 to the Southwest Writer Series so that we can at least have some of it here, some panels on Southwestern cultural literature. So it's not over, and Prescott College is also asking to take us on, but I don't think they have the money this year. So maybe it isn't over. For now, it's over. I'm getting a sabbatical because I just have the Southwest Writer Series to do and 2 classes to teach next semester.
So, what drew you to YC, and why have you stayed with the college?
Good question. Well, I stayed with the college because I was raising my family here. I had, 7 children, and raised them here, get my job here. My former husband used to work for the college. He ran the elder hostel and started that other program that they have now. Even though we split up, by then I was here, I had the institute, everything connects me here, and it just seemed like what I was doing. And students were always saying, writing students, all the crazy writing students like me, I'm glad you're here. So it's where the universe wanted me to be, so it's where I stayed,
Yeah, I'm actually really glad that I got to interview you because writing is my favorite thing.
Is it
especially
really?
Creative writing. I want to be an editor. I want to be an author, but so what's your favorite thing that you've taught or been involved with?
I don't know, I heard you in series, but over the years, I liked Don Yeager. He was in the past, and Robert Salmon actually was really supportive of my program. I don't know, there were other things as a dean I didn't particularly like, and there was a writer, poet dean for a while, and I can't remember his name, but I liked him too. And that's the deans of instruction I'm talking about. My own dean of the department, I think they called them division chairs then, but they're now assistant deans, was Don Rawlings. He was absolutely amazing around this college, and that's who I worked under. We retired around the same time. I retired so I could work for 1/5 of the pay. I'm just about full-time on the conference, but now that's getting chopped off, so it's sad.
What kind of changes in the college's environment and the building structures have you seen over the years?
I've seen lots of changes. Having been here this long, and we're talking about buildings.
Yeah.
Well,
anything really.
Yeah, right. Well, atmospheres have changed too. And maybe the buildings help reflect that. I don't know. I always referred to the architecture here as early Alcatraz because it was all stucco. No stucco, just cement buildings and that flat prison yard out there. I was pretty vocal about it all the time. So it's much more people friendly, more environment friendly now, and people worked hard to do that. When they made the big master plan and all that kind of thing, all those green and environmental ideas went in.
What about changes in students or even staff members or anything? changes in personality or anything?
Are we talking, administration or?
Mostly like with students. Like, what changes have you seen in students over the
Well,
years?
since I've really been a creative writing teacher, I guess I've seen a couple of negative changes, but I would get wonderful students because they wanted to write. And a lot of my classes would be a mix of community people and then younger students and, wonderful students, and usually, the less conventional students, and I've always enjoyed that. What I didn't like to see start happening, and I had to figure out how to deal with that, was a lot of people came in who and decided they were writers and didn't want to do any editing and never read. They were poets who'd never read poetry, and they thought they could get an easy grade and not do anything, didn't want to revise, and that was a change. It's happened, maybe 10 years ago, but I think I then went on to teach mostly night classes because there's less of it in the night classes. And some young people, pretty interesting people, came into my night classes this time, and they seemed to realize they're with a bunch of writers and they had to write. So it all depends on how many the percentage is in the class.
So do you have a favorite thing about teaching? Like, is there something that you really just enjoy about it, or even something that you just don't like about it?
Oh dear, get myself in trouble. I really love the learning and seeing people transform. A lot of my students have gone on to publish. And even the ones that don't, are still committed. They're around the community. But I love it when I look in journals and I pick up a literary journal, based in California or Oregon, and I see one of my former students' stories in it. That's exciting. I have a little problem with things like learning outcomes stuff because I don't think it's hard to measure what I want to teach and what transforms lives, and the skill part's easy. And as long as it doesn't take up too much real teaching time, it's pretty easy to show that there's been some change in skill.
Yeah.
But to me, that's less important. That happens when students are committed to what they're doing and when they're engaged. It just happens. That's how it happens. And that's what's important to do when you teach, in my view.
Is there anything that has been like a best or a really good experience at the college, or like a worst experience?
Oh, many more worst. No, I've had good. I've had good. They one time recognized me for creative, innovative teaching and gave me $1,000 that I had to spend on stuff around college, and that kind of thing. But there was a bad period in our college when several faculty, me included, were followed by private detectives, and that was not fun. And it should be here in the history, because it's not this administration. No, not that at all. And I still don't know. There seemed to be an era of paranoia going on with administration, and a lot of things were going on with the board. One of the people on the board was a former military intelligence officer. That might be an oxymoron. And so they sent a private detective pretending he was a student to me, and he also recorded other people. But one of the students that was in a lot of our classes was handing out this thing criticizing the administration, and this other administration. I really want to make it clear that I wouldn't expect that behavior out of any other administration. And I even liked the president that did it, but I think it was the board. Anyway, and was trying to find out if I was involved in this stupid little sheet of paper.
Oh my goodness.
It was really terrible, and I did say, there are real, you don't want to get involved with go work for a real paper, do some real investigation. So because there are some really terrible things going on here. Then he asked me what they were, and I ran him down. I said, first of all, the college board is too stupid to be running a college. And then I went on to name the illegal things that were going on. One was they were teaching my transferable to the university class. One of the board members had an alternative school. He was teaching my class to 7th graders and giving them grades. I mean, he wasn't, but he was hiring us. And that was like, we're going to lose transferability, and we did. But, so that was a bad era. That was a bad era.
I bet.
Yeah.
Some interesting stuff.
Mm-hmm.
For sure.
Yeah, I was invited to go before the state legislature and talk about that, but I decided things were changing. I decided that rather than to do that or bring a lawsuit or anything, I just had started the Hacienda Institute. Where did they think I was going to find time to do subversive activities,
So it seems to me that you're really involved in the passionate side of this instead of the structured side. You really care about what the students are not only going to learn, but how they're going to develop their personality and stuff.
Yeah, who they are and what they, I guess I just connect that way. I'd been a social worker before I was a teacher, so, I see people in terms of the whole of them. And of course I'm passionate about writing because I, published my own books, and now that the Institute is over, who knows, maybe I'll have more time to write, which, I wouldn't have stopped it, but let me tell you, it's a lot easier to teach a couple classes a semester than to run that institute as far as time. So yeah, I think who people are and who I know writing takes you to a different place. You become a different person with my writing. So.
I only have a couple other questions. What do you think the college has helped you get to where you are? A lot?
Yes, definitely. Sometimes they work again, the not the college itself, but just the educational apparatus. People at the university who write teach maybe 2 classes a semester rather than 5. Mm-hmm. So it's harder to do these things than to write and stuff. But I had, John Rawlings was very supportive. The deans that I talked about in the past were very supportive, helped find money to fund the Institute and the Southwest Writer Series, which brings people in. And in fact, now the Dean of Instruction now is actually going to keep the Southwest Writer Series at least, and, seems to see value in that and how it can work in with writing classes when you bring people who publish their writing and to talk to students, because that's what happens. And so, in that way, yes. And but sort of in the old days, it was different. It wasn't as structured around here. Mm-hmm. And I just wrote a grant to the Commission of the Arts, started the series, went around to begging money from student services and stuff to do this. And the vice president told me he was never so shocked. He was at a state meeting and they congratulated him on the grant for the writing series. And he said he knew nothing about it. Today they'd probably fire me, but then that was. He said, "Sounds good, but bring it to me next time." So, okay, you can sign it too. Yeah.
The only other question I have is, how do you think the college is doing now, and how do you think the writing programs are and the classes?
Well, I can't say, but all I know from the classes, from what I know the instructors are very dedicated to their work, the writing, the composition instructors. I know that they really spend a lot of time, at least the full-time faculty, and some of the adjunct, I don't know all the adjunct, they really feel what they're doing is good, and they try to do it the best they can, and they're always reading up on articles and talking about them, and that doesn't happen everywhere. Mm-hmm. And as far as the creative writing, Lorraine Herring that they've hired in is just terrific, and I was so glad that she was hired, because she's just full of energy and enthusiasm, and really knows the writing scene and how to help people become writers. Because before that, when I was the only one, creative writing was sort of looked at a little bit. This was back in the past, different faculty, but a little suspect, and was it real? And that's how I felt about composition. Even though I taught it, I would try to teach it in a meaningful way, and I think people here now are trying to do that too. I haven't been in the classes, but so I see that. I just don't want to get myself in trouble, but I do have problems with some of the outcome stuff. But I think that has to be done everywhere now, and I think people are trying to work it in their classroom activity in a way that it benefits it, and not the way in public schools when they're teaching to the test type thing, which is, as we all know, insane. But this isn't high school, it's really college.
Yeah, it is.
Yeah. Well, I hope I didn't say too much about it, but this was like 1986 and 7, so...
Well, this is what they want. They want what people's experiences were, what their thoughts and opinions are. Yeah.
Well, it was pretty horrifying to find out, and I was pretty angry about when that happened to me. In fact, I sat there being interrogated by that person, military intelligence officer, and he wasn't anymore even. And I remember saying to him, he said, the president had, a mouse in her office, and there was someone made a phone call, and there was no one on the other end. These things. And there was tire damage. Well, it had turned out to be a nail in a tire. I immediately thought of slashing. So we thought that someone that would have people in her class writing this stupid thing, which people were in a lot of classes, and would be involved. And I said, you know what? I said, if my 101 students came to me with that logic, I'd send them right to page 304. I didn't even know what page it was. 304, and tell them they better check their logic before they made those kind of statements. Boy, he did not like that. So, anyway. So I was really glad that era had passed, and, so other things can happen. And I backed away from college politics. I was in Senate and all those things after that. And I'm going to do what I know is positive, do my Hacienda Institute, do my classes, Southwest Writers Series, and do good things. And because some things never change, and you just change them and they become something different that isn't good. So that was sort of my philosophy, and it worked for me really well.
And is there anything you want to add, or any advice you'd want to give to any students or faculty?
Well, I guess to do just that, no matter where we are, things go on around us that we don't like it, and you can't stand back and not do anything if it's horrendous. So you have to have a balance. I've seen people bang their heads against the wall where it wasn't going to do any good, and it's better to put your energy where it's going to do some good things for yourself, for others, and good things can happen if you apply yourself, I think. They have here. And I'm saying this even though the Hacienda Institute has just been canceled, because maybe it'll go somewhere else, maybe it won't, maybe its time is over. Southwest Writer Series may take on some other kinds of things, and I can do more writing, get more books published. So that's all. Students, I can give writing students a lot of advice. I would say go to a writing conference somewhere. But that's it. And don't let things that are going around you that are don't let it change you. Don't let it make you bitter. Don't waste your time on that. So that's about all I have to say. And I'm really happy, and I'm hoping that what's going on around us in the structure and the buildings and the everything is a has some reflection on the whole a change here. I don't know. off the record I could say other things, but on the record, let's just hope that that's what's happening.
All right, well, thank you. That was really great.